BRICS is expanding at a scale that is beginning to reshape the global economy. This shift matters because the group is no longer a small collection of emerging markets. It has grown into a large economic zone whose total output now exceeds the G7 when measured by purchasing power, and its population and resource base are far larger. More countries are joining, and the group has moved from 5 members to 10 in a short period. The pattern is clear. Nations with fast-growing populations and rising consumption want more than one economic partner, and they want a system that offers stability when global conditions become harder to predict. The United States remains the strongest advanced economy, but the momentum of global demand is moving toward regions that are now inside the expanded BRICS network. These countries consume more energy, more minerals, more food, and more manufactured goods every year, and that growth gives them increasing leverage in global trade. A short example captures how this influence is showing up in the real economy. In Brazil, Ford closed one of its vehicle plants and left the facility idle. A company from China later stepped in, upgraded the site, and restarted production through BYD. It was not just a business shift. It reflected how new economic ties inside the BRICS network can quickly fill gaps that once relied on traditional partners. For many nations, joining BRICS offers a way to expand trade, access new markets, and reduce the risks that come from depending on one financial center. As more countries enter, the collective weight of the group grows, and so does its ability to influence how global trade and investment will be shaped in the future. The question now is why so many countries see BRICS as the right choice, and what deeper forces in the global economy are pushing them in that direction. Those forces start to emerge when we look at where global growth is coming from. Since the early 2000s, the center of economic expansion has been moving away from North America and Europe and toward Asia and the wider global South. These regions have faster population growth, rising consumer demand, and a growing share of global production, which means a larger share of future global growth will come from these markets. China has played a major role in this transition. It has become the largest trading partner for many emerging economies, and its investment and infrastructure projects reach across Asia, Africa, and South America. For many governments, these partnerships create predictable demand and long-term economic ties that help stabilize their own development plans. And for countries seeking stable financing, new export markets, or large-scale development projects, China often offers opportunities that are difficult to secure elsewhere. In this environment, BRICS looks less like a political club and more like an economic platform that offers practical benefits. Many countries now see it as a way to diversify their partnerships, expand trade routes, and reduce the pressure that comes from relying on a single economic system. For some nations, BRICS also provides access to energy partnerships, resource cooperation, and lending terms that differ from traditional institutions. Those alternatives matter because they give governments more room to shape their own economic strategies without depending too heavily on any one country. The momentum is driven by simple incentives. Countries want more flexibility, more markets, and more control over their economic future, and BRICS is becoming a place where these goals can be pursued. That is why interest in joining continues to rise and why the group has grown so quickly in recent years. However, BRICS is not expanding only because of these economic opportunities. There's another factor that has strengthened the group, and it comes from decisions made far outside the BRICS network. Those forces start to emerge when we look at where global growth is coming from, and they help explain another trend that has quietly reinforced the BRICS network. Several policy choices made outside the BRICS group have pushed many countries to rethink how much they rely on a single economic system. Over the past decade, higher trade barriers and financial restrictions placed on certain nations have created new incentives for countries to look for alternative partners. For many governments, the risk of being exposed to one dominant financial structure became more visible, so they began exploring options that would give them more control over their long-term economic stability. This shift can be seen in the numbers, and it shows how quickly these incentives have reshaped global behavior. Trade among BRICS members rose sharply between 2021 and 2024, increasing by roughly 40%. Some countries also expanded the use of their own currencies in bilateral trade, which reduced their dependence on traditional payment systems and allowed them to diversify how they settle transactions. For policymakers, this diversification is a practical step that makes their economies less vulnerable to abrupt changes in external rules or financial conditions. The goal behind these moves is not to replace the United States or its financial role. It is to spread risk across multiple partners so that a single policy decision from outside their region does not disrupt their entire economy. For many nations, this strategy offers a sense of security that a one-path system cannot provide, especially in a world where economic pressures can shift quickly and without warning. This growing alignment raises an important question about the structure of the BRICS group and whether it has the strength to operate as a unified economic force. The size of the group is significant, but size alone does not create a single system, and this is where the limitations begin to appear. BRICS members do not share one economic model or one political direction. Each country approaches the partnership with different goals, and these differences shape how the group functions in practice. Brazil aims to maintain balanced relationships with both Western partners and emerging markets, since its economy depends on access to a wide range of export destinations. India focuses on strategies that protect its autonomy, and it often chooses policies that reflect domestic priorities rather than group alignment. Russia seeks economic links that reduce the impact of its limited access to parts of the global financial network, making BRICS a necessary outlet for trade and investment. China wants to expand its influence and strengthen its position across the global south, which gives it a larger stake in directing the group's long-term vision. These different agendas do not always move in the same direction. There is no shared tariff structure, no unified regulatory framework, and no common trade standard that binds the group together. As a result, BRICS operates with less coordination than economic blocs that have formal institutions or shared rules. It functions more as a network that connects large and fast-growing economies, rather than a bloc that acts with one strategy. This means the symbolic impact of BRICS is strong, especially as its membership grows. Yet the group does not have the internal cohesion required to replace existing global systems. Its influence comes from its scale, its resources, and the speed of its expansion, not from unified action or shared policy. The question then becomes what this expanded but uneven structure means for the United States and its long-term economic position. The immediate impact is limited, but the long-term shift is harder to ignore. BRICS is not replacing the United States today, yet its growth is shaping a world where economic influence is spread across more regions, and that change carries real consequences for the American economy. One of the clearest effects appears in global payments. As more countries settle part of their trade in local currencies, the dollar remains dominant, but its exclusive role gradually becomes less absolute. This does not weaken the dollar in the short term, but it opens the door for a more diversified system where multiple currencies share a portion of global transactions. Competition is another pressure point. American companies face stronger rivals in emerging markets as Chinese firms expand their presence through manufacturing, energy, and infrastructure. These markets once depended heavily on American and European suppliers, but that dominance is no longer guaranteed. Over time, this shifts where industries grow and which companies capture new consumers. There is also the question of financial leverage. For decades, access to the global financial system has given the United States considerable influence. If more countries build alternative trade channels and payment options, the reach of American financial restrictions may become less predictable. It does not disappear, but its impact spreads unevenly as countries adopt multiple economic partners. Supply chains add another layer to the long-term picture. As BRICS members strengthen ties with one another, the flow of materials, energy, and manufacturing capacity may move along routes that do not rely on traditional hubs. For the United States, this affects import prices, production decisions, and the strategies American businesses use to stay competitive. For investors, the shift is equally important. Emerging markets inside the BRICS network continue to grow at faster rates than many advanced economies. That growth attracts new capital, and over time it may change how investors balance risk and opportunity between the United States and the rest of the world. All of these forces raise a larger question about the direction of the American economy and how the United States adapts to a world that no longer revolves around a single economic center. That question becomes even more important when considering what this shift represents in the broader global landscape. The rise of BRICS is not simply a sign of American decline. It is a signal that more countries want additional options in how they trade, invest, and align their economies. A world once centered almost entirely on the United States, and a small group of advanced economies is turning into a world where choices are spread across multiple regions. For the United States, the real issue is not the size of BRICS or how many members it adds. What matters is the direction of global economic change and the pace at which new partnerships are forming across the global south. These connections shape how resources move, how technology spreads, and how influence is shared among nations that were once far from the center of global decision-making. This shift forces an important question. How should the United States respond in an environment where economic power is more widely distributed and where countries no longer rely on a single partner? The answer will define how strongly the United States maintains its role as a leader in trade, finance, and innovation. BRICS does not yet function as a unified force capable of replacing the G7. Its members have competing interests, and its structure lacks the integration required for a dominant shared strategy. Yet, its expansion highlights a broader truth. The world is slowly moving away from a system where one country holds most of the economic influence. More nations now have the ability to choose who they work with and how they structure their economic future. The meaning of this moment is clear. The next phase of the global economy will be shaped not only by the strength of the United States, but by how effectively it navigates a landscape with more players, more partnerships, and more alternatives than ever before.